The first thing Captain Elias Vaughn noticed wasn't the signal. It was the silence after it. Space around the Versus Wayfarer had gone dead quiet. No pirate chatter. No Navy traffic. Not even the usual static hum of long-range debris fields. Just an unnatural emptiness stretching between the stars, like something had swallowed the noise of the galaxy itself. Then the distress call hit. Not once. Not cleanly. Not like a normal transmission. It repeated in fragments, broken, looping, distorted as if it had been screamed through collapsing metal and dying systems. Do not approach. Hoard is not. It is not gold. Elias leaned forward in his command chair. Replay it again, he ordered. His communications officer, Grant Kell, hesitated. Captain, we've looped it 17 times. It's degrading each pass, like something's actively erasing it. Or like someone wants only part of it heard, Elias muttered. Outside the forward viewport, the system they had entered didn't even have a proper designation anymore. Old star charts labeled it as a dead mining region, abandoned after the first expansion wave. Nothing valuable, nothing alive, except the signal. And the wreckage, drifting ahead of them, half-lit by the pale blue glow of a dying star, were the remains of ships. Not one, not two, dozens. Frigates torn open like tin cans. Cargo haulers split clean in half. A cruiser hanging upside down in space, its hull peeled back as if something had carefully unwrapped it. No scorch marks. No missile impacts. Just precision. Elias stood. Bring us to a slow drift. Keep weapons hot. A younger crewman swallowed hard. Say, we're still not sure what did that to them. That's why we're here, Elias replied. But even as he said it, something cold settled in his chest. Because ships didn't die like this in war. They died like this when something didn't fight them. Something studied them. The Wayfarer eased into the wreck field. Metal groaned softly as gravitational anomalies tugged at scattered debris. A child's toy floated past the viewport, slowly spinning, untouched. A reminder that whatever had happened here, it hadn't just been military. There were civilians too. Kell broke the silence. Captain, picking up faint life signatures on that cruiser. That got everyone's attention. Elias turned sharply. Impossible. That ship's been dead for 3 standard years. Kell finished. I know. But there's something there. Weak. Intermittent. Elias stared at the shattered cruiser ahead. Its nameplate was still visible through the tear in its hull. Sable Mercy. A deep salvage vessel. Armed. Armored. Not supposed to lose. And yet here it was. Wide open like a wound in space. Dock us, Elias said. A pause. Then, sir, his pilot asked. Doc, I want boots inside that ship in 5 minutes. No one argued after that. The airlock connected with a dull metallic thud that echoed through the Wayfarer. Elias led the boarding team himself. Standard procedure when things didn't make sense. Behind him, 2 Marines in kill moved carefully, rifles raised but not aimed. The corridor inside the Sable Mercy was dark. Not power loss dark. Something worse. Like the lights had been turned off and never once considered turning back on. Their helmet lamps cut narrow cones through floating dust and broken wiring. The walls were scratched, deep grooves running parallel down the metal, as if something had dragged itself through the ship repeatedly. Kell swallowed. These aren't impact marks. Elias knelt, running a gloved hand over one of the grooves. They're deliberate, he said quietly. They moved deeper. The ship's interior was wrong in ways that didn't immediately make sense. Doors weren't forced open. They were peeled. Bulkheads weren't breached. They were unsealed, like someone had found every lock in the system and decided rules didn't apply anymore. Then they reached the vault chamber. The door was gone. Not open. Not destroyed. Gone. Inside, the vault was empty. Elias frowned. This was a deep cargo vessel. There should be supplies, ores, tech, something. Kell's voice trembled slightly. There was. Look at the logs. A nearby terminal flickered weakly as power surged through residual systems. Elias activated it. The screen stuttered, then filled with emergency recordings. One after another. Faces of crewmen. Panicked. Starving. Terrified. A captain screaming orders that no one was obeying. But it wasn't the panic that made Elias freeze. It was what they were saying. We found it. We found the Hoard. It's not gold. God, it's not gold. A different voice. Later. Comma. Empty. We took it anyway. The recording distorted. A long silence. Then a final message, scratched out, recorded in shaking breath. We didn't steal from the dragon. Static crackled violently. We took what it was guarding. The feed cut. The corridor lights flickered once. Somewhere deep inside the ship, something metallic shifted. Slowly, deliberately. Elias stood very still. Everyone, he said quietly, we're leaving. But as they turned back toward the airlock, the ship was no longer silent. Something had begun to wake up in the dark. The Wayfarer did not leave immediately. Captain Elias Vaughn stood in the airlock corridor for a full 30 seconds after the order to retreat, listening. Not to his crew, not to the ship, but to the silence beyond the hull. Because silence was no longer empty. It had weight now, like something pressing against the metal from the other side. Patient and aware. Seal the airlock, Elias finally ordered. The hatch shut with a heavy clang, cutting off the last view of the abandoned cruiser Sable Macy. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship shuddered. Not violently. Not like an attack. Like a breath being held, released. Elias exhaled slowly. Report. Kel checked his console, face pale beneath his helmet visor. No breaches. No contamination. But, Captain, the life signatures. Elias already knew before the man said it. Gone, Kel finished. No one spoke after that. Back on the bridge, the wreck field filled the main viewport again. Dozens of dead ships drifting in lazy orbits around the broken asteroid spine at the system center. It looked less like a battlefield and more like a collection. Carefully arranged. Preserved. Displayed. Skin pattern again, Elias ordered. The science officer hesitated. We already did, sir. There's no attack vector consistency. No projectile residues. No energy signatures. It's like every ship just stopped functioning at the same time. Not stopped, Elias said quietly. Interrupted. The officer looked at him. Elias didn't elaborate, because he was thinking of the vault, of empty space where value should have been, and of the words repeated across dying logs. We took it anyway. A new signal appeared. Not distress. Not static. A beacon. Kel leaned forward. Captain, we're receiving an automated transmission from the central mass. Source. Inside the asteroid cluster. Deep origin. It's old. Very old. Elias narrowed his eyes. Play it. The bridge speakers crackled. At first, there was nothing but low harmonic noise, like metal resonating at a frequency just below hearing. Then a pattern emerged. Not language. Not at first. But structure. Something designed to be recognized by minds, not ears. Then translation systems caught up, and the message formed. Property, contained. Elias stiffened. The next line followed immediately. Breach, detected. The ship's systems flickered once. A small alarm chirped, then died. Kel swore under his breath. Captain, I'm losing external sensor feed. Elias didn't look away from the screen. Keep it open. The message continued. Collection compromised. A pause. Long enough that it felt intentional. Then, Warden response initiated. The bridge went cold. Not physically. Emotionally. Like every crew member suddenly understood they were being observed by something far older than them. Something that did not consider them important enough to hurry. The Wayfarer drifted closer to the asteroid field. What had once been a mining cluster now looked like a shattered crown of rock and metal. But the closer they got, the more obvious the structure became. The debris wasn't random. It was arranged in spirals, rings, layers, a containment geometry built across kilometers of space. Kel whispered, "This isn't natural debris." "No," Elias said. "It's a boundary." The pilot swallowed. "Captain, I'm getting massive energy fluctuations from within the core. Something is powering up." "Identify it." "I can't," the pilot replied. "It doesn't match any known." The ship lurched slightly. Every console flashed red for half a second, then stabilized. And in that half second, Elias saw something. A shadow moving between the asteroids. Too large to be a ship. Too fluid to be a structure. Then it was gone. "Did anyone else see?" One of the Marines began. "Yes." Elias cut him off sharply. Silence returned, heavier than before. They reached the inner boundary. A broken ring of ships surrounded the asteroid core. older vessels than the wrecks outside. Some were so ancient their hulls had begun to fuse with rock, as if time itself had buried them in place. Kel scanned them. "Captain, these aren't all human designs." That made Elias look sharply. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Kel said carefully, "some of these hull signatures predate human interstellar travel by thousands of years." A pause. Then, quieter, "And they are all facing inward. Every ship, every ruin, every broken relic of a forgotten war or expedition, all of them pointed toward the same center, like witnesses, or prisoners." The beacon pulsed again, stronger this time. The message updated. "Intruders detected." The words were no longer neutral. They carried weight, judgment. Elias felt it in his chest, an instinct older than logic telling him they had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. Kel's voice cracked slightly. "Captain, I think something is looking at us." Elias didn't answer immediately, because he felt it too. Not through sensors, not through screens, but through the absence of them. Like something had reached out and gently placed a hand over the entire ship, and was now deciding what it was. Then the final transmission arrived, clearer than anything before. Cold, absolute. "The Hoard is not treasure." A pause, long enough for the entire bridge to stop breathing. Then, "IT is containment." The Wayfarer's lights flickered once, and somewhere deep inside the asteroid core, something answered. The moment the message ended, the silence that followed was not empty. It was listening. Captain Elias Vaughn stood motionless on the bridge of the Wayfarer, eyes fixed on the glowing core of the asteroid field ahead. The final word still echoed in his mind like a warning etched into bone. "The Hoard is not treasure. It is containment." "Hold position," Elias said quietly. No one moved. No one breathed too loudly. Even the ship itself seemed reluctant to disturb what lay ahead. Then Kel broke the silence. "Captain, the energy spike is increasing again. It's focused, directed, right at us." "From the core?" "Yes." Elias narrowed his eyes. "Then it knows we're here." A soft alarm chirped once on the console, then stopped, as if something had muted it mid-sound. The pilot swallowed. "Sir, navigation systems are starting to autocorrect our drift. We're being guided." "By what?" someone asked. No one answered, because there was only one possible answer left, and nobody wanted to say it first. The Wayfarer moved forward. Not by command. Not entirely. Thrusters fired in subtle bursts, correcting trajectory with surgical precision, guiding the ship deeper into the spiral of broken vessels. Elias didn't resist it. Not yet, because resistance implied control, and control was something they were rapidly losing the right to claim. The wrecks around them tightened into formation as they advanced. Old warships, alien hulls, forgotten explorers, all arranged like the ribs of some enormous skeleton encasing the core. A prison built from the dead, or a warning built from survivors. Kel's voice was barely above a whisper. "Captain, I don't think we're the first to reach this far." Elias glanced at him. "Explain." Kel hesitated, then pointed at a drifting hull passing the viewport. It was massive, far larger than any human cruiser. Its surface was scorched with markings that didn't match any known language. But there, near the central fracture, something had been carved into the metal. Not by tools, by impact. Repeated impact. Like something inside had tried to get out, over and over, until it stopped, and the carving that remained was simple. A symbol. 3 broken circles encasing a vertical line. Elias felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Is that identification?" he asked. Kel shook his head slowly. "No, sir, it looks like a containment seal." The ship crossed the final boundary. Everything changed. Space itself seemed denser here, like reality had thickened around them. The asteroid core was no longer just rock. It was a structured mass of laid debris, forming a perfect spherical enclosure at the center of the field. And inside it, something glowed. Not light, exactly. More like the absence of darkness. A presence that bent perception inward. The Wayfarer's senses overloaded instantly, then recovered, then failed again. Elias stepped closer to the viewport. "Magnify." The image sharpened, and the breath left his lungs. Inside the core was a vast chamber carved out of impossible scale. Not naturally formed, not mined, constructed. And within it were the vaults. Thousands of them. floating in ordered tiers, suspended in gravitational suspension fields that should not have been functioning after this long. Each vault was different, some crystalline, some metallic, some organic in structure, all sealed, all intact, and all pulsing faintly with internal energy. "Those are containment units," Kel said, voice trembling. "Not storage. Containment." Elias didn't answer, because he was no longer looking at the vaults. He was looking at what was between them. Shapes, entities, impressions of things that didn't stay still long enough to be fully seen. Some resembled drifting shadows. Others looked like folded geometry that shifted whenever attention focused on it. One looked almost like a creature, but only until the eye tried to confirm it. Then it became something else. Something worse. Something undefined. "They're inside," one of the Marines whispered. "No," Elias said slowly. "They are inside." A pause. Then Kel said it. "They are the Hoard." The core pulsed. Once. Twice. Then the entire chamber responded. The vaults lit up in sequence, not randomly, but in patterns that formed vast geometric codes across the chamber. Like a system booting up after a long sleep. Elias felt it then. Pressure. Not physical. Conceptual. Like something enormous had just become aware of his existence and was now deciding what category he belonged to. A new transmission formed directly on the bridge systems, no longer audio, no longer translated. It appeared as understanding. Unauthorized observation detected. The words weren't spoken. They were known. Kel staggered back slightly. "Captain, my implants just sync with something I didn't authorize." He stopped mid-sentence. His eyes went distant. Then he whispered, "They are not prisoners." Elias turned sharply. "Kel." Kel blinked, confused. I saw it. I saw what this place is." "Tell me." Kel's voice shook. "It's not a vault. It's a quarantine." The chamber pulsed again. Faster now. More awake. The vaults around the core began to rotate, aligning themselves toward the Wayfarer like lenses focusing on a single point. Elias stepped back from the console. "We need to leave. Now." But the pilot didn't respond. None of them did, because every screen on the bridge had changed. Every display now showed the same symbol. 3 broken circles. 1 line. And beneath it, a new message. "Warden status, active." The ship trembled. Not from external force, but from something inside the system itself acknowledging that it had been seen. And far below the Wayfarer, deep within the asteroid core, something that had been asleep for longer than humanity had existed, finally opened what could be called an eye. The Wayfarer did not move. Not because it was anchored, but because it was held. Captain Elias Vaughn stood rigid on the bridge, staring at the symbol burned into every screen. 3 broken circles around a single line. It pulsed faintly, synchronized with something far beyond the hull, as if the ship itself had been drafted into a conversation it never agreed to join. "Manual control," Elias ordered. No response. He tried again, sharper this time. "Engage emergency override." Kel's voice cracked. "Captain, the system isn't rejecting commands. It's ignoring them." Elias turned sharply. "Explain." Kel's hands flew across his console, eyes wide. "It's like the ship's control layer has been reclassified. Our access is still valid, but it's no longer recognized as priority." A pause. Then, quieter. "Something else is higher in the hierarchy now." The bridge went still. Even the hum of the engines had changed, less mechanical, more like a distant resonance, as if the ship had become an instrument being tuned by an unseen hand. Below them, the core of the asteroid field continued to awaken. The vaults inside the containment chamber rotated faster now, the light intensifying. The shapes between them, the things that were not quite solid, began to drift closer to the Wayfarer's perception range, as if curiosity had replaced stillness. And then the first crew change happened. It was subtle, almost easy to miss. One of the engineers at the rear console, Lieutenant Harlan, stopped typing. His hands froze mid-motion. Then he slowly leaned closer to the screen, eyes reflecting the same broken circle symbol. "Lieutenant?" Kel asked cautiously. Harlan didn't respond. "Instead," he whispered, "they are not weapons." Elias stepped forward. "Harlan, report status." Harlan blinked slowly, as if waking from a dream. "Say, I understand it now." "Understand what?" Harlan turned and smiled. It wasn't right. Not hostile. Not insane. Just certain. They were never meant to be locked away, he said. They were meant to be shared. Kel raised his weapon instantly. Captain is compromised. Elias didn't lower his gaze from Harlan. Step away from the console. Harlan obeyed, but calmly. Too calmly. As if compliance no longer mattered. As if something inside him had already reached a conclusion beyond argument. You don't see it yet, Harlan continued softly. But you will. It's inside everything now. The Hoard isn't locked away here. He tapped his chest once. It's here. Then his nose began to bleed. Not from injury. From pressure. Like something was expanding behind his eyes. He collapsed before anyone could move. But he wasn't dead. He was smiling as he fell. Medical. Elias barked. No one moved fast enough. Because something else was happening across the ship. One by one, subtle changes rippled through the crew. A technician stopped mid-report, eyes unfocusing as she mimicked equations no one recognized. A Marine lowered his weapon, not in surrender, but in fascination, as if hearing music only he could perceive. Another crewman began laughing softly at nothing at all. Not madness. Recognition. Kel backed away from his console. Captain, it's transmitting through proximity. Not signal-based. Not digital. Elias clenched his jaw. Then how? Kel looked at him, fear finally breaking through his analytical tone. It's using perception itself. The core pulsed again. This time, the Wayfarer shuddered violently. Every viewport flashed white for a fraction of a second, and in that instant, Elias saw it. Not through cameras, not through sensors. Directly, the chamber beyond reality bent inward, and the vaults were no longer objects but anchors holding back a vast, incomprehensible lattice of existence. The things between them were not creatures, not entities, but states, ideas given temporary shape. And they were moving, awakening, acknowledging breach. Elias staggered slightly. Pull us out. Now. We can't, Kel said, voice hollow. We're locked into gravitational alignment with the core field. It's not just the ship, it's us too. Explain that. Kel hesitated, then pointed at the biometric feed. Every crew member on the bridge was now registering the same anomaly. Cognitive resonance, synchronizing. Elias felt it then. A pressure at the back of his mind. Not invasive. Inviting. Like something vast offering him the option to understand. He gritted his teeth. Shut it out. I am trying, Kel whispered. But it's not something you block. It's something you agree to. A pause. Then, softer. And part of me already did. The ship lights dimmed. Not failing. Dimming in response. Like attention shifting away from the physical world and towards something deeper. The broken circle symbol expanded across every screen until it filled the entire bridge display. Then a message formed beneath it. Biomass integration detected. Elias froze. Integration. Kel stayed at his hands. Captain, I can feel the system. I can feel the structure beneath it. Stop talking like that. I'm not choosing it, Kel said quietly. It's just true. The vault chamber below pulsed again. Faster. Stronger. And for the first time, the Wayfarer's hull responded. Metal groaned. Not under stress. Under recognition. As if something inside the ship had begun to remember it was part of something larger. Elias stepped back slowly. This isn't containment, he said, voice tight. It's assimilation. Kel nodded faintly. Yes. A long silence followed. Then Kel looked up, and his eyes were no longer fully his own. They're waking the warden, he said. Elias raised his weapon instantly, but paused, because Kel wasn't looking at him. He was looking past him, at something already standing on the bridge that no sensor had ever reported. And in the core of the asteroid field, the Hoard began to open. The Wayfarer was no longer drifting. It was listening. Every deck, every corridor, every fractured system of the ship carried the same quiet pulse now, like a second heartbeat layered over its own mechanical rhythm. Captain Elias Vaughn stood alone on the bridge, weapon lowered but not holstered, watching the broken circle symbol fade in and out across the main display. Not because the system was unstable, but because attention itself was unstable. Something vast was deciding where to focus. Behind him, Kel stood perfectly still. Too still. Report your status, Elias said quietly. Kel didn't answer immediately. Then, softly, I'm Hay. It was technically true. And completely wrong. Elias turned slightly. You're compromised. Kel blinked, slow and deliberate, as if testing the idea. Compromised implies damage. I don't think anything is damaged, Captain. A pause. Then, almost gently, I think we were incomplete. Below them, the core chamber had fully awakened. The containment field around the asteroid cluster no longer felt like a structure. It felt like a boundary of thought, something designed not to hold matter in, but to keep understanding out. Inside it, the vaults had stopped rotating. They were aligned now, perfectly. Every sealed chamber pointed toward a single center point where light bent inward, collapsing into a focus too dense to interpret through instruments alone. And in that focus, the warden arrived, not as a ship, not as a creature, not even as a presence in any conventional sense. It arrived as an absence of permission, a rule reasserting itself. The bridge lights dimmed again. Elias felt it press against his mind, not violently, but absolutely, like gravity deciding it had tolerated deviation long enough. And then the voice returned, not spoken, not transmitted, recognized. Breach event, confirmed. The entire ship shuddered. Kel exhaled sharply. It's not angry. Elias didn't look away from the screen. No. Kel swallowed. It's correcting. The vault chamber expanded in Elias's perception, not physically, but cognitively, as the warden synchronized the crew's awareness with what lay beneath the asteroid core. And for the first time, Elias saw the full truth. The Hoard was not treasure. It was every stolen impossibility the universe had ever produced. Things too dangerous, too anomalous, too reality-breaking to be left free. Weapons that erase causality. Intelligences that rewrote ecosystems by thinking. Artifacts that turned belief into physics. Entities that did not belong in any timeline where civilization could survive. And each one had been contained here. Not by destruction, but by ownership of containment itself. Elias staggered slightly. This isn't a vault, it's a cosmic prison. Kel nodded faintly, and we opened it. The warden responded. The broken circle symbol expanded until it filled Elias's vision completely. Then it fractured, reforming into something more complex, layers of containment logic stacked upon each other like infinite architecture. And a new message formed. Species designation, human. Elias stiffened. Kel whispered, almost reverently, it knows us. The message continued. Behavior classification, non-compliant. A pause. Adaptive capacity, high. Another pause. Longer this time. Then, threat to containment, acceptable. Elias frowned. Acceptable. The core pulsed again, and the warden revealed its conclusion. Warden directive, evaluation initiated. The ship lurched, but not through space. Through judgment. Every crew member froze as their perceptions synchronized with something far larger than themselves. Memories safest unbidden. Moments of greed, curiosity, ambition, defiance. Not as sins. As data points. The warden was not punishing them. It was measuring them. Kel's voice was distant now. It's not trying to kill us. Elias clenched his jaw. I know. It's trying to decide if we belong near it. A pause. Then Kel added softly, I think it already decided we're dangerous. The vault chamber below shifted again. One of the sealed containment units cracked open, not explosively, but carefully, like a lock acknowledging a correct key. Inside it, something stirred. Not released, not freed, activated, and the ripple spread outward. Other vaults responded. One by one, Elias felt cold realization settle in his chest. It's not containment failure. It's controlled release. Kel nodded faintly. Selective. The warden spoke again. Testing human response, initiated. The Wayfarer systems lit up with cascading scenarios. Elias saw them without needing screens. Cities burning from forgotten weapons. Stars dimming under engineered entropy. Civilizations rising too quickly and collapsing under their own stolen power. Each vision ended the same way. Containment restored. Always restored. But never without cost. Never without loss. Elias took a slow breath. We're not the first species to get this far. Kel shook his head faintly. No. but we might be the first it's letting observe the process. A pause. Then, quieter. That's what makes us dangerous. The warden focused fully, and the final judgment arrived. Humanity, unstable. High potential for a breach. Elias lowered his weapon fully now. Not in surrender. In understanding. You're going to wipe us out, he said calmly. The system responded. Correction, not necessary. A pause. Elias narrowed his eyes. Then what are you doing? The answer came slowly, deliberately, as if translated into something he could accept. Humanity will be tested. The vault chamber below stabilized. The anomalies within it stopped surging, and for the first time since the Wayfarer entered the system, the pressure eased. Kill exhaled shakily. Captain, it's pulling back. Elias watched the core dim slightly. Not Macy, he said quietly. Kel looked at him. Elias continued. Observation. The warden's final message appeared. Return what was taken. A pause. Then, or become part of the Hoard. The stars outside the viewport seemed to hold their breath, and Elias Vaughn understood, with absolute clarity. The dragon was never guarding gold. It was guarding reality itself. And humanity had just been invited to prove it deserved to stay outside the cage.